Hello once again to share Scenic Trips. Join us as we explore South Korea this time in June of 2019. Let's start by taking a look at the map of Korea to understand its geographical location and some idea of the places we plan to visit. This is the Korean peninsula. It's divided between the north and the south by this demilitarized zone, which is called the DMZ. South Korea is better known as the Republic of Korea. To its south is the island of Jeju. On the left is the Yellow Sea, on the right is the Sea of Japan. Beyond the Yellow Sea is China, Shanghai. All of this is Japan. In this direction is Osaka. To the north of North Korea is the border with China. A tip to its northeast is the border with Russia. The Sea of Japan is bounded by Japan on one side and Korea and Russia on another side. Vladivostok is somewhere in this direction. Korea is mainly very hilly and there are hundreds of islands on its periphery. We are taking an overnight flight which will land early in the morning in Seoul at Incheon International Airport. From Incheon to Gimpo is a 1-hour drive, from where we'll take a domestic flight. From Gimpo, we'll take a 1-hour flight which comes to Jeju or Jeju Island. After Jeju, we'll take another flight to Busan. From Busan, we'll drive down later to Gyeongju. From Gyeongju, we'll take a KTX express train, which is super fast, to Seoul. From Seoul, we'll drive down to Gapyeong and then a bit down to Namison Island or Nami. And finally, from Incheon, we'll fly back. We were met at Incheon by Miss Hallasan and Mr. No. And as we drove to Gimpo, we came to know that rain and gusty winds was expected in Jeju that day. The Jeju International Airport was very cute, even though it's the second largest airport in Korea after Incheon. Jeju Island was formed by volcanic eruptions and consists mainly of basaltic lava. It is approximately 45 miles wide from the east to west and 25 miles from the north to south. Hallasan at 6,400 feet is its highest mountain in South Korea and located right at the center of the island. It is of a volcano origin. The rainwater penetrates into groundwater aquifer through cracks in the lava in the forest around Hallasan forests. This groundwater is the sole source of water for Jeju residents. The Jeju climate is subtropical with 4 distinct seasons. The winter is cool but never below zero and dry, where the summers are hot, humid, and sometimes rainy. With an average temperature of around 14 degrees Celsius and the soil slightly acidic with a pH of between 4 and 5, winds which blow around the year, annual rainfall of 1600 mm, and the well-drained lava soil with mild sunlight make the conditions ideal for tea plantation. While Heather was picking up her car, we went to get coffee and stretch our legs in the coastal walk nearby. We then started eastwards for the Henyo Museum. The Henyo are female divers who symbolize the independent spirit and determination. By the 18th century, female divers had already outnumbered their male counterparts. Possibly a significant number of men had died at sea in the 17th century, which led to diving becoming the work of the women. Physiologically, too, women have more subcutaneous fat and a higher shivering threshold than men. By 1960s, many families found the Henyo earned the most as her earnings had improved by then, and she became the head of the family. Today, however, finding many alternatives to the back-breaking labor in dangerous conditions, women have mostly abandoned the profession. In 1970, only 14% used to be 50 years or older. Today, almost all the Henyo are over 50, the oldest over even 80, and have been diving more than 60 years. A girl usually starts to train when she is 11. Beginning in shallow waters, she works her way up to more challenging depths, and after about 7 years of training, she becomes a Henyo. We were lucky to see a Henyo returning from her diving. At Henyo Museum, we got to see a film as well as the tools of the trade. It consists mainly of a wetsuit, goggles, gloves, chest weights, an L-shaped weeding hoe, and a net attached to a flotation device. The Henyo stashed their catch inside this net. Earlier, they used to wear cotton swimsuits and could stay underwater for up to an hour at a time during the winter months. After an hour, they came out and sat by a fire for 3 or 4 hours to dry up, and then after this break, they would jump back in for another hour. During the summer months, however, they could stay longer and up to 3 hours at a time before taking a break. With the introduction of wetsuits, the Henyo could stay in the water for 5 or 6 hours even during winter. With each dive, she can plunge to a depth of 30 meters and hold her breath for 3 minutes or more. Their harvest usually consists of abalone, octopus, sea urchins, oysters, etc. But the divers must also face dangers such as jellyfish, the poor weather, and sharks. Afterwards, we stopped close by for lunch. They served fresh seafood, and the ladies were very hospitable and even shared their coffee and gave us a gift later. After lunch, we headed in the eastward of Jeju Island to visit the Seongan Ilchulbol, or the Sunrise Peak. The Seongsan Ilchulbol Peak rose from the sea in a volcanic eruption. A huge crater at the top that measures 600 meters in diameter and 90 meters depth is the main attraction. With sharp rocks surrounding it, it looks like a gigantic crown. While the southeast and the north sides are steep cliffs, the northwest side is a verdant, green, grassy hillside which is ideal for walking up. It was gusty and foggy when we reached there, so it was pointless to try to walk all the way up to the tough cone. visit, we headed to the center of Jeju Island for the Sangumburi crater. Heather suggested it would offer a better view in the given conditions. It is a slightly bigger than the crater on top of the Hallasan. Afterwards, we headed over the Hallasan peak towards the southern tip of Jeju to a hotel in Seogwipo. After checking in and refreshing up, we set off to find the Lawn Food Chinese restaurant nearby. The search ended up nail-biting thanks to our joint use of the Google and Naver in tandem. But the dinner ended well. The next morning, we headed for the Chusanjolidi or the columnar cliff nearby, which were formed from lava explosions as well. As the surface of the explosions cooled, it shrank faster than the inside lava, causing cracks to form within. When the lava cooled further, the cracks shrank and grew right down to its base. The small cracks joined to form larger ones to release more energy and formed angles between 120 degrees, which is the most efficient angle and also happens to be the angle between the sides of an hexagon. The Cal Hotel is nearby. It's called Baby Factory for being a popular honeymoon destination with Korean tourists. Next, we headed for the Jongbang waterfall, the only one in Asia that falls directly into a sea cove. Afterwards, we drove to Sengyo, a pedestrian bridge inspired by a Tewa, a flat logboat of Jeju with a sail. The bridge connects to the Sesom Island, which is a conservation area. From there, we went to the CS Resort. The park next to it offers splendid views. On our return, we stopped to admire the Yakshonsa or the Nirvana temple for its beautiful architecture. We then stopped on the Jungmung Road to view the Seongmingyo or the Seven-Nim Bridge from the cherry blossom lined strait. Of course, there was no blossoms in this time. Lunch was the soup of sea urchins which the Henyo catch and grilled fish. lunch, we headed for Mount Sangmangsan and the Yeongyori coast, which has the most scenic views of the southern coast of Jeju, as well as the Gyeongjongseong island. The Gyeongjeseong looks like one big and a smaller island depending on the tide and your position, so they are referred to as the brother islands. Next, we headed for Altro or Aldro. This is an abandoned airfield that was used during the Japanese occupation and used as a forward base during the attacks on Nanjing. There are two permanent installations on exhibit. One is Bluebird, which is a bamboo structure which has a message of peace. The another is a wire sculpture of a plane within a hangar which shows the ruins of war.
Sometimes I can do it.
라, wait.
Yes.
I'm actually sleep Korean. There's the sea.
The nice houses, middle of nowhere.
Guest house as well. Must be
Budapestin, right?
Maybe the owner
Must have been from Budapest.
They just harvest the potato and then replant the garlics.
Nobody knows that.
Potato gone already, harvest. Last week I saw the potato, but no more here.
Harvest करें ना potato और garlic. जब जो harvest करें मैंने काटा
Zucchini. You can recognize all plants, huh?
Because people can ask me, so I study.
So you have to study.
You know, usually my study, I supposed to study history, but my lady gets to, hey, what's the flower name? What's this plant? What's this tree? So now I know. Yeah, I'm going to be there. You can see there's some lady.
The statue with the bird. Yeah.
She's the comfort lady. During the Japanese
time.
occupation, they've been forced to went to the military base and being a prostitute, which is it was.
Seudal or Civil Massacre Memorial is right next door. It is symbolic of the April 3rd incident. After the Japanese defeat of World War II, the American and Soviet troops occupied North and South of Korea, separated by the 30th parallel. The United Nations called for general elections but was opposed by Soviets, so the UN proceeded with elections only in the US-occupied South. The Communist Party of South Korea in Jeju had protested this. The police reacted by killing some of the protesters and arresting many hundreds. The rebels retaliated by attacking police stations. The South Korean government then sent in more soldiers to reinforce the Jeju police, but several of them mutinied and joined with the rebel. On 25th June 1950, North Korea then invaded the South. South Korean military reacted by detaining suspected leftists all across the nation. Thousands were detained by Jeju police and several faced a firing squad. The South Korean soldiers attacked and burned 70% of Jeju's villages, killing more than 15,000. In one incident, 150 people were executed at the Seudal Orium. As they were loaded onto trucks and moved there, they dropped shoes along the way so their families could follow the trail and find their dead bodies. The South Korean government hushed up this entire episode of its history until very recently. Next, we headed for the Osuluk Tea Museum, which is right next to the Seogwang Tea Garden. The gallery on high floors present magnificent views of the gardens nearby. We shopped for green and tangerine, peach and other exotic tea, and Osuluk cosmetics as well there. Osuluk Seogwang Tea Garden produces the green teas. It is a part of the Amur Pacific, which also owns the Innisfree and the Lanergy brands. As it is near Mount Sangmangsan, it receives clouds and fog from it, which are created from the winds coming from the mountain Hallasan, the highest peak in Korea. We saw fans there being used to control temperature and humidity as required.
কভার করা আছে
gentle climate, no? So here it can be open. In India, you have trees in between to give them shade. It's too hot.
Oh, there's some certain place down there. There is a cover the green tea.
Shrubs.
So that's fan. What is the
I was asked about the fan, and then I heard it's a temperature, humidity.
With the fans.
Oh, nice.
Also green tea, but they are kind of they what to say plant differently. Yeah, so it will have a different flavor. I heard.
Next, we headed for the Cheonjeon waterfalls. It is in 3 tiers. Cheonjeon means the sky connected with land, as the water appears as if it falls from heaven. Seongnimyo is an arch bridge between the second and the third tiers of the Cheonjeon waterfall. The bridge is also called the Chilseongyo or the Seven Nymphs Bridge, after a Korean legend that 7 beautiful nymphs descend there from heaven at night. The 34 stone lanterns on the bridge light up at night. Pizza.
Hello. The mountain Hala is a lady god and lady, so she doesn't want to show her face to the someone prettier than her. So we didn't see her face for last 2 days. The meaning is you guys are so pretty. She's hiding. That's what Jeju people say. So it's like if we see her every day, she's very confident. Oh, I'm better than you, and they give you.
That's fine. Absolutely.
Yeah, so we can comfort ourselves.
After so much hiking, Heather treated us with Jeju tangerine popsicles, which were delicious in the heat. For dinner, we went to her friend's restaurant in Seogwipo. We tried the famed Jeju black pork and the Hallasan mountain soju, which is one of the best. In the morning next, we checked out from the US hotel and headed back north over the Hallasan National Park. We stopped at the 1100 altitude point, the highest point on the road, and visited the wetlands reserve there. It's a wetland listed under the UNESCO Ramsar Convention.
পাতাটা লাইক ম্যাপেল ট্রি পাতার মতো।
Next, we continued onto the mysterious road. Cars, subjects, and even liquids roll uphill here instead of down. Of course, it's an optical illusion. We then checked in for our flight to Busan, our next destination.
So it's moving by itself?
Yeah.
Yeah. moving uphill.
It's a neutral.
Okay.
And it is actually going up.